On Delta TV main news tonight, President Tinubu urges religious leaders to denounce banditry and terrorism. Federal government deploys coastal highway guards to halt vandalism. Nigeria Labour Congress to commence negotiation with federal government for a new national minimum wage. And abroad, Israeli Prime Minister rejects United States President's 15-point plan aimed at ending Gaza war. Good evening and welcome to the Delta Television main news. I am Blessing Usiagbada. You can also follow our news online on Facebook and YouTube at Delta Broadcasting Service Asaba or visit our website at www.dbsasaba.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the news in detail. President Bola Tinubu has called on religious leaders across the country to consistently speak out against terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and the misuse of religion to justify violence. President Tinubu made the call in Kano through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, at the Grand Maulud celebration of Sheikh Ahmad Al-Tijani. The President urged religious institutions to strengthen peace education, religious literacy, scholarship, and the moral development of young people. He called on clerics to promote justice, compassion, and peaceful resolution of grievances, while using their networks to support reconciliation, counter violent extremism, and provide humanitarian assistance. President Tinubu reaffirmed his administration's commitment to religious freedom and collaboration with religious and traditional institutions to promote peace and national cohesion. President Bola Tinubu says about 147 structures in Lagos State will be affected by the construction of the service lane for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, with only 5 slated for complete demolition. President Tinubu disclosed this at a stakeholders engagement held alongside the flag-off of rehabilitation works on the Eco and Marine bridges and repairs to our flood-damaged sections of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Represented by Lagos State Governor Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the President said the remaining 142 structures would only experience minimal impact from the project. He assured affected property owners that compensation would be provided where applicable, urging them to remain patient as the process progresses. President Tinubu appealed to Lagos residents and other stakeholders to cooperate with the government, stressing that community support is essential to the successful execution of the infrastructure project. He commended the Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, for his effort towards expanding and rehabilitating the nation's road infrastructure. The federal government has launched the Coastal Highway Guards to protect the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway from vandalism, illegal occupation, and other unauthorized activities. The Minister of Works, Senator David Umahi, launched the initiative with an initial 40 officers who would monitor the highway, report suspicious activities, and prevent hawking, loitering, motorcycles, and tricycles on the route. The guards, led by retired General Adekunle Shonduke, would work with security agencies to safeguard the highway and other government assets. The 750-kilometer, 10-lane Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway was being constructed by High-Tech Construction Company under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Works and would connect Lagos with Cross River through Ogun, Ondo, Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom states. The federal government has deployed a dedicated passport intervention team from the Nigeria Immigration Service (NIS) headquarters to the United Kingdom to address passport-related challenges faced by Nigerians living in the diaspora. The deployment is part of ongoing efforts to streamline passport application processes and make services more efficient and accessible to Nigerians in the UK. The intervention team is expected to assist applicants experiencing difficulties, including delays and other challenges associated with passport applications, while working to resolve outstanding issues. The initiative, according to the federal government, underscores its commitment to improving immigration and consular services for Nigerians abroad and ensuring that passport services are more accessible, responsive, and efficient. As the curtains came down on the Delta State Economic and Investment Summit recently in Asaba, business operators and other residents have described the event as a significant step towards repositioning the state economy and attracting new investments. They, however, want government to ensure that the investment commitments and agreements reached at the summit translate into tangible projects and opportunities for all. The people spoke with our reporter, Henry Usiayo, on the expectations following the summit. The report.
The three-day summit brought together government officials, investors, business leaders, development partners, entrepreneurs, and other stakeholders to explore opportunities for economic growth and diversification in Delta states. For some respondents, the summit provided an opportunity for Delta State to showcase its economic potential and attract local and international investors, while others said the success of the summit would depend on what happened after the event, urging the state government to follow up on agreements reached with investors.
Let me first of all appreciate the government for that initiative. It's a very, very marvelous one. You can see, I never knew Delta State is so rich. In a short distance time, you see Delta State is a hub where business can move fast.
The respondents said actual investment in key sector of the economy will create jobs, expand businesses, and provide more opportunities, especially for young people, while calling for transparency in the implementation of investment agreements. The people stressed that the summit should not end with speeches and policy discussions, but should serve as a starting point for concrete action. They expressed the hope that the outcome of the summit will attract new capital, stimulate businesses, create employment, and ultimately improve the standard of living across the states.
That summit made people to know that Delta State is a peaceful place to be.
Henry Usiayo reporting.
Following the decision by the West African Examinations Council (WAEC) to withhold the results of some candidates over alleged examination malpractice, residents have called for a balance between strict sanctions and fairness in the investigation process. Henry Onogwa sampled the views of parents, students, teachers, and education stakeholders on the development.
Some residents described the action as necessary to discourage examination malpractice. Others called for thorough investigation to ensure that the results of innocent candidates were not unjustly seized. A parent said she supported WAEC's decision, noting that examination malpractice had become a serious concern in the education system. She, however, urged the examination body to carefully investigate each case before taking final action.
Sometimes WAEC withholding some schools' results is not because there's exam malpractice actually, probably because there are corruption even in the system for those invigilating schools. So if it is legit, I am in full support, so that both the school and the parents and the students will know that learning is a serious issue and everybody will sit up.
WAEC decides to withhold result of people they suspect to have cheated during exam. At least it will help to curb the menace of exam malpractice. The transparency in the process of investigating. So students, during the process of investigation, that are discovered to be innocent shouldn't be made victim.
A student said candidates should understand that examination malpractice could negatively affect their future, advising students to avoid shortcuts and concentrate on adequate preparation for their examination, but called for transparency in the process.
It's going to affect innocent ones because looking at it, it's not, you don't really know the exact students that were involved in that examination malpractice. I think they should look into it again to know how to sort out those that did examination malpractice and those that were not involved. Yes, they should not use it to affect the innocent ones. Students should understand that examination malpractice destroys their future.
Other respondents stressed that the responsibility of tackling examination malpractice should not be left to WAEC alone, calling for stronger collaboration among teachers, parents, and the school authorities to educate students on the dangers and consequences of cheating.
Examination malpractice and curbing it shouldn't be left with the exam body alone. It should be a combination of the work from the parents at home and the teachers.
You know what they go do those people will be say, I mean the examiners or the invigilators themselves will be say, as they go invigilate for exam, they see them as source where they go to make extra money. Some, then they will be say, what did they pay them? They are paying them enough, but they still believe, say, as they go invigilate this exam, now source for them, now means for them to get more money. Because if you as examiner, you know, agree say you go collect money from students self, where go do malpractice, because some of them they are aware of these students who they do this malpractice, but because they don't already collect money from them, put for pockets. Now why they go allow them do the malpractice?
The people agreed that withholding results could serve as a deterrent to other candidates, while suggesting that WAEC should adopt the computer-based test method as a way of reducing examination malpractice in secondary schools. Henry Onogwa reporting.
The state government has announced the indefinite suspension of the Commissioner for Works, Highways and Urban Roads, Comrade Ruben Izeze, with immediate effect. In a statement signed by the Secretary to the state government, Dr. Kingsley Emu, the suspension was to enable security agencies conduct an unbiased investigation into allegations linking the Commissioner to the reported assault on the Senior Special Assistant on Protocol, Mr. Simon Moody, also known as Temple, at the Petroleum Training Institute, PTI, Efrun, recently. The statement says it remained committed to maintaining public safety, law and order, and protecting the sanctity of lives, stressing that these principles apply even when institutions and officials of government are involved. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, says it will soon commence negotiations with the federal government for a new national minimum wage, insisting that the current 70,000 naira wage is no longer sufficient to meet workers' basic needs amid rising inflation and cost of living. NLC President Joe Ajero, represented by the union's Deputy President Audu Amba, made the position known at the Rights of Workers Summit in Benin Kebbi State. Comrade Ajero said workers should prepare for fresh negotiations, stressing that anything below 500,000 naira would not adequately cater for their needs. Trade Union Congress TUC President Festus Osifo, represented by Secretary General Nuhu Toro, similarly said inflation, rising food prices, transport fares, and rent has significantly eroded workers' purchasing power and called for improved remuneration and welfare. Kebbi State Governor Nasir Idris pledged support for Labour's demand for better wages, saying Nigerian workers deserve improved welfare. Meanwhile, the network of Abuja left groups comprising 6 civil society and socialist organizations urged Nigerians to support the demand for a minimum wage of at least 500,000 naira and called on residents of the Federal Capital Territory and Nigerians nationwide to back labor as the August 11 deadline approaches. The group argued that the minimum wage dispute should be viewed as a broader struggle for economic survival and dignity rather than an issue affecting only public servants. The Nigeria Revenue Service, NRS, says Nigeria's economy is beginning to recover following what it described as painful economic reforms introduced by the administration of President Bola Tinubu. The service said the country has moved from severe economic challenges towards greater stability, with inflation slowing, oil production increasing, tax revenue rising, and foreign reserves improving. According to the NRS, oil production rose from about 1.2 million barrels per day in 2023 to 1.73 million barrels per day by July 2026. Tax collections also increased from 12.3 trillion naira in 2023 to 27.1 trillion naira by July 2026, while foreign reserves rose to $51.9 billion. Economic growth, it said, improved from 2.74% in 2023 to 3.8% in the first half of 2026. The service also reported strong growth in Nigeria's capital market, with the market value of the Nigerian exchange rising from 30.36 trillion naira in 2023 to 161 trillion naira in 2026. It added that more than 100,000 vehicles had been converted to compressed natural gas, while increased government funding was being directed towards agriculture to boost food production. The NRS, however, noted that Nigeria's total debt rose from 87.4 trillion naira in 2023 to 159.28 trillion naira in 2025. Although the debt to GDP ratio declined from 38% to 32.3% in 2026. It said the figures indicate improving economic stability, while acknowledging that challenges, particularly food prices and agricultural production, remain. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has raised the alarm over the growing use of everyday consumer products to conceal illicit drugs. The agency's Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, gave the warning in a post on X, urging parents to closely monitor their children's interest in cookies and gummies, as drug traffickers increasingly use such products to disguise substances. Babafemi said recent seizures had exposed attempts by criminal networks to package illicit drugs as ordinary confectionery. He displayed images of colorful packages labeled Cookies Delta 8 Gummies, with flavors including Hawaiian Rain, Pineapple Guava, and Thai Mango, noting that the branding was designed to make the substances appear harmless and attractive, particularly to young people. In a separate development, NDLEA operatives intercepted consignment of cocaine concealed inside phone chargers and allegedly destined for Saudi Arabia. The agency said the discovery demonstrates the increasingly sophisticated methods traffickers are using to exploit common household and electronic items for the movement of illicit drugs across borders. The NDLEA also advised travelers not to accept parcels, luggage, or packages from strangers without verifying their content. The agency urged Nigerians to remain vigilant, warning that drug trafficking networks continue to devise new methods of concealing and transporting illicit substances. Christians have been charged to develop unwavering faith in God in order to have a fulfilling relationship with Him. The pastor of Faith Dominion Bible Church, Asaba, Pastor Okonkwo Mighty, gave the charge while delivering the sermon during the prayer session of staff of Delta Broadcasting Service, DBS, Asaba. Eunice Emeasia reports.
Pastor Okonkwo said believers must recognize God as the Almighty who rewards those who diligently seek Him, noting that it was impossible to please God without faith. The clerical cited Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6 and Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20, described faith as a present and tangible substance through which Christians could access God's ability to do beyond human limitations. Pastor Okonkwo identified 5 key attributes of God's nature and character, urging believers to understand them as a way of strengthening their prayer lives. He said God had the ability to act at any time to meet every need, even beyond what believers ask for, and is capable of exceeding human imagination. Using biblical examples, Pastor Okonkwo said the faith of the Roman centurion whose servant was healed by Jesus and the widow whose debt was supernaturally addressed was God's willingness to solve human problems.
It's just to say that God is more than enough. Oh, yes. He has so much. He can do above what we ask now. He can do above our imagination.
He encouraged DBS staff to approach God with confidence and expect results, while urging Christians to make faith the foundation of their service to God, stressing that those who come to God must believe in His power and ability to respond to their needs. Eunice Emeasia reporting.
You're watching Delta TV Main News. Still to come, Israel Prime Minister rejects United States President's 15-point plan aimed at ending the war in Gaza. Details of this story and many more will come after the short break. Please stay tuned.
You can't even go out because of
Children, come back! Stay away from the flood.
But mommy, it's only water.
No, my son. Flood water is dangerous. It can sweep people away, hide open gutters, and spread deadly diseases.
Last year, my family lost our home, our furniture, food, and important documents were washed away. We don't want that to happen again.
Flood can destroy homes, schools, offices, roads, bridges, and farmland. They can disrupt businesses, contaminate drinking water, spread diseases like cholera and typhoid, displace families, and even claim lives.
Many floods become worse because people dump refuse into drains and block waterways.
We all have a role to play in preventing floods. Never dump refuse into drainage channels. Keep gutters and waterways clean. Plant trees where possible. Listen to weather updates and emergency advisories on Delta Broadcasting Service News. If advised to evacuate, move immediately to higher ground. Never walk, swim or drive through flood waters.
Protect lives, protect properties, protect the environment. Flood prevention starts with me. Flood prevention starts with you.
This flood disaster risk reduction message is brought to you by the Public Service Unit, Office of the General Manager, Delta Broadcasting Service, Asaba. Together, let's prevent floods and build a safer, cleaner, and more resilient Delta State.
Welcome back. And if you're just joining us, this is Delta TV Main News. And now to world news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected United States President Donald Trump's 15-point plan aimed at ending the war in Gaza. Mr. Netanyahu says Israel would not withdraw its troops from Gaza until Hamas is genuinely disarmed, noting that any disarmament process must be complete and genuine. The decision comes after Hamas reportedly agreed to the plan, but said it would only surrender its heavy weapons if Israel ends all aggression and withdraws its forces from Gaza. Mr. Netanyahu says Israel would continue to protect its forces and citizens from threats, while discussions with U.S. officials continue on how to move forward with the proposal. A state of emergency has been declared in Western Canada after thousands of people were forced to flee their homes as a fast-moving wildfire spread rapidly. The Bald Range fire had doubled in size since it was first detected on Friday. Police said one person had died in the fire, which was burning across 53 square miles in Summerland and other parts of British Columbia. Summerland and nearby communities had been evacuated as officials battled the blaze. Officials said the flames were so high that they created their own weather systems, generating lightning and worsening the fire. Chinese authorities have evacuated more than 1 million people from parts of eastern China, including Shanghai, following the landfall of Typhoon Dolphin. The mass evacuation was carried out as a precaution against strong winds, torrential rainfall, and possible flooding, with residents in vulnerable communities moved to safer locations. Emergency response measures have been activated across the affected areas as relevant agencies intensify efforts to monitor the storm, protect lives, and minimize damage. Several parts of eastern China have been affected by the typhoon, with authorities urging residents to remain vigilant and comply with safety directives as emergency operations continue. And now to business. Traders at Obogonogo Modern Market in Asaba say the prices of essential commodities have continued to rise, attributing the development to high transportation costs and increased prices at which they procure goods from suppliers. The traders said the rising cost of transportation, coupled with higher wholesale prices, has made it difficult for them to maintain previous market prices. Consumers who spoke at the market expressed concern over the situation, saying their income now buys fewer goods than before. They identified rice, beans, gari, and vegetable oil among commodities that have recorded significant price increases. Some shoppers said the development is putting pressure on household budgets, forcing families to reduce the quantity of food they purchase or resort to cheaper alternatives. The traders and consumers appealed to government at all levels to take urgent measures to address the rising cost of goods, reduce transportation expenses, and improve the purchasing power of Nigerians. The Naira has remained stable against the dollar, trading at about 1,362 Naira to the dollar at the official Nigerian Foreign Exchange Market, NFEM, as the gap between the official and parallel market narrows. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that the official rate at approximately 1,362 Naira 55 kobo per dollar, while the dollar sells for about 1,425 Naira and buys at 1,410 Naira on the parallel market. This puts the gap between the official and parallel markets selling rates at about 62 Naira per dollar. Analysts attributed the relative stability to continued foreign exchange supply by the central bank aimed at easing demand pressures. The Naira has remained within a narrow range of 1,362 to 1,364 Naira per dollar in recent trading sessions, although actual exchange rates might vary depending on the location and type of transaction. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has reduced the pump price of premium motor spirit, PMS, popularly known as petrol, to 1,299 Naira per litre in Abuja and some surrounding areas. The new price represents a reduction of 36 Naira from the previous rate of 1,335 Naira per litre, amid increasing competition among fuel marketers in the downstream petroleum sector. However, petrol prices continue to vary across states and filling stations, depending on supply costs, transportation expenses, and prevailing market conditions. The reduction is expected to provide some relief to motorists and transport operators as consumers continue to monitor development in the petroleum market. And now to sport. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, has confirmed the calendar and host countries for its major 2026-2027 competitions, with the move expected to provide greater certainty for football associations, players, broadcasters, and supporters. CAF says the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, to be hosted by Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, will hold from June 19 to July 17, with qualifiers beginning in September. The CAF Super Cup will take place in South Africa on November 8, featuring Champions League winners Mamelodi Sundowns and Confederation Cup holders USM Alger. Ghana will host the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations, while Morocco will stage the Under-17 competition, with Egypt hosting the Under-23 tournament that will serve as a qualifier for the 2028 Olympic Games. CAF also announced that Morocco will host the Futsal Africa Cup of Nations from October 12 to 21, while Senegal will host the Beach Soccer Africa Cup of Nations in November. The preliminary rounds of the Champions League and Confederation Cup will begin next month, as CAF continues work on a proposed African Nations League and a possible new Under-17 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. That's our news. Now our thoughts for the day. Do not let failure stop you. Let it teach you to do better. And to end the news, here are the highlights. President Bola Tinubu has called on religious leaders across the country to consistently speak against terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and the misuse of religion to justify violence. The federal government has launched the Coastal Highway Guards to protect the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway from vandalism, illegal occupation, and other unauthorized activities. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, says it will soon commence negotiations with the federal government for a new national minimum wage, insisting that the current 70,000 Naira wage is no longer sufficient to meet workers' basic needs amid rising inflation and cost of living. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected United States President Donald Trump's 15-point plan aimed at ending the war in Gaza. And that ends Delta TV Main News. Thank you so much for listening. You can also follow our news online on Facebook and YouTube at Delta Broadcasting Service Asaba, or visit our website at www.dbsasaba.com. I am Blessing Usiabada. Have a beautiful evening.